Welcome back to Combined Alien and Horror, where hidden truths and untold stories come to light. Today, we dive into They Told Us Childhood Was a Drawer of Safe Small Things, Bikes, Bedtime Stories, Scraped Knees. They lied. I was 9 the first time the house showed me it had a voice. Not the soft, creaky kind you tell yourself at night. This was a voice that lived in the corners and learned how to breathe through a closet door. I lay in bed watching glow-in-the-dark stars melt against the ceiling, counting the long seconds until morning. Shadows from the trees danced on the wall like cheap theater props, except one refused to dance. It crouched low by my toy chest, patient as a pause. When I blinked, it was gone. Next morning, the toy chest stood open. My mother would have screamed at me if I'd left it that way, so I closed it and said nothing. A few weeks later, my little sister, 5 and honest to the bone, told our mother, who didn't listen, that there was a man in her closet. She said he whispered without a voice and never moved his lips. My mother prayed the kind of prayer people use to buy a night's sleep. That night, I heard dragging, the slow fingernail on wood sound of something sharpening patience on our floor. It stopped at my bedside, and then, perfectly, stopped. In the morning, there were fresh scratches along the wood, like tally marks for nights survived. My mother blamed toys. I blamed the quiet. Nights stretched thin. Sometimes a radio of static would hum from the closet. Sometimes my sister would point to the corner and say, "He's there," as if reciting a list. Once, winter pressed hard and the hallway light went dead while I watched. Footsteps padded down the hall and paused at my door. Something leaned in, just the head, and breathed like cold palm over my face. I played dead until the doorway closed and morning convinced us all to pretend nothing had happened. You learn quickly that when adults refuse to see, the thing in the house grows complacent. Silence is a kind of invitation. We moved when I was 10. The next house was newer, with a deeper closet and 2 windows that looked over a backyard you could trust by day. Midnight told a different story. The closet shivered as if someone pressed from within. Tapping drifted on the window, until one night a pale hand pressed to the glass, on the 2nd floor, impossibly high. The hand lingered, then slid down and vanished like a signature erased. My mother laughed when I told her. My stepfather kept the hallway light on for a while, pretending light could change rules. Then my 4-year-old brother began talking about the white lady who sat on his bed. He said her eyes were all black. I stopped laughing.
The white lady came with a voice like dry leaves, my name dragged across paper. She hovered. Once, she slid through the window as if rain had learned to walk. My parents found the window locked again and called it a night terror. They called it therapy. They called it everything that made them comfortable. I call it a guest who doesn't respect boundaries. The house turned our moments into evidence we were unreliable. My brother stopped mentioning her not because she left, but because he learned words can make grown-ups angry. I slept with a blanket over my face until I became used to listening for air that was not air. There was a third memory, softer at first, like someone humming behind the lawn. I was 8, riding a red bike with a bell that sang like a dare. An old man stood on a driveway down the block and called to me from his hat. He never stepped off his property. He seemed harmless, He laughed at a joke, spoke my name. Sometimes he knew things I hadn't told anyone. I thought perhaps the world had curious edges. Then he stopped. Curtains closed. Months later, a woman appeared and told me her husband, Harold, had died the year before. A photograph showed a man with a scar across his cheek. The man I'd seen had no scar. I left the driveway with a cold that fit inside the chest. Weeks later, I woke to my name outside the window on a rainy night. The voice sounded like the man from the driveway, patient and familiar in the way danger becomes familiar. My parents found nothing. My friends dared me to prove it. I did not. The house changed hands. The street softened. I moved away, but that voice sat like an unanswered question behind my teeth. These three things, the closet, the white lady, the man, live in me like a cluster of unsettled sentences. Each one contradicts the ordinary line adults draw around childhood. Stories stay stories, shadows stay shadows. They taught me two things. First, places remember. Floors keep scores. Windows hold fingerprints of attention that return. Second, adults will always, with the best intentions, choose explanations that let them keep breathing easy. So what are we left with when a house makes its own history? Little scratches, toys dumped in the night, names whispered into the rain. These are ledger entries of whatever watched us.
You can call them night terrors. You can call them grief. You can call them the stuff of small minds trying to narrate the dark. Naming them never quieted the hollowness. More than fear, there grew a thin, hard anger. Tabloid rage at being dismissed. Adults called it sleep or imagination. Landlords changed locks and moved on. Paper trails had gaps where details should be. It felt like a small, organized forgetting. I kept notes, dates, the rhythm of knocks, the smell of the hallway. As the notes grew, so did my need for proof. I wanted a photograph that would not be explained away, a ledger that showed the house had aired its intentions across generations. When we planned the return, we packed a camera, a tiny digital recorder, flashlights, and the oldest talisman I owned, a child's shoe, a memory-turned object. We drove with the radio off because noise felt disrespectful. The porch felt colder than it looked. There was a seriousness in our voices that had no room for denial. We agreed to drive back tonight. We agreed to stand on that old sidewalk and ask the questions we had left like unfinished letters. We agreed to bring flashlights, a camera, and prayers that might be as useful as a flashlight. And here is where I stop for now, because stories rarely end on a porch. They end with presence. The moment I tell you this, 3 soft knocks echo through the line of my memory, the exact rhythm of nails dragged on boards, the pattern I recognized in my childhood home. Something answered our agreement. Something that is not content to be only remembered, wants to be seen. I will tell you what happens when we step back across that threshold, but not tonight. For now, carry this image with you. A faded photo, a white dress at the edge, and eyes like empty rooms. Come back, and I will open the door.